In this video, we are blowing in insulation into existing walls. We actually hired a company to do this, and they charge about $1 a square foot for the pink fiberglass blown-in insulation. We were calculating what they were charging us, and as it turns out, they're making about 75 cents per square foot. So not a bad little gig they have going. And when you do as good of a job as they did, it's really not so bad paying for it. I estimated their materials cost to be around 25 cents per square foot. As you can see, when they drill the holes in the walls, they just use a 4-inch hole saw. What they do is they bang on the wall till they find what they think the center is, drill a hole, and then pull out the tape measure to figure out exactly where they are and how far away the next hole should be. It's a little bit unfortunate that he had lost that plug in the wall because that is what we were planning on using to patch the holes. So here is my dad commenting on how convenient the height is for repairing the sheetrock of the holes they drilled. And also, we were debating whether or not we could have done as good of a job as they did, considering that they not only know what they're doing, but also that they use a commercial machine. The rig that they use is a box truck that not only contains the machine for blowing in the insulation, but also a large supply of both white and pink fiberglass. One thing to notice that's absent here is the recycled newspaper. They absolutely do not use a recycled newspaper insulation. This worker is on the business end of the machine, and you'll notice draped over his shoulder is the control switch that turns the machine on and off. He uses insulation to provide a seal to try to keep most of the insulation in the wall and not blasting out in his face. But as you see, there's a few leaks happening already, and trying to do this by himself turns out not to be so easy. There's actually a lot of air leaks from cavity to cavity, and so plugging them up and holding your hand over one or stopping it with some batting goes a long way to help fill a wall. But here's another spill until finally his helper gets to him and he gives him the controls. So even with a commercial machine, this really turns out to be a 2-person job to get it done right. The first few cavities that they fill happen to have the white insulation in it, which is left over from their previous job. So in here you can see the hole in the center of the wall. He angles the machine down in order to spray in, covers it up with insulation, and most importantly, he gets his face out of the way before the machine is activated. Here's just a beautiful shot of insulation flying into my house, and another idea of the force that goes through these pipes. It's pretty tremendous. Now here the machine runs out and there is no more white insulation, and he continues with the pink later on. After reloading the machine, he eventually shoots it into the top of the cavity and then finally fills the whole void. In the kitchen, it went exactly the same, except for they had to drill a few holes underneath the kitchen sink to get underneath the window. And it just flies in there. They don't have to ruin your cabinets or anything. To be honest, anybody could do this job. However, it is quite a nasty job, and despite wearing a respirator, I still found myself coughing. So I am glad that we hired someone to do it, but we could have saved, $500 if we did it ourselves. The only cost-saving measure that we did take was the decision to do the sheetrock repair ourselves. We were countersinking the holes because, as it turns out, all that paint from all these years is quite hard to sink a screw into and get it flush with the sheetrock. The method that we decided upon was to use 1/4-inch pieces of plywood and insert them behind the wall and then screw them into place and then attach the plugs that were cut out by the hole saw earlier to the 1/4-inch plywood, so we would have as flush as possible of a surface to work with.
On these so you can be sure you aligned it. And screw. Screw.
We decided to use 1/4-inch thick plywood for the backing for the plugs, not only because it wouldn't interfere with the insulation very much, but also because it is very unlikely to split as we sink screws into it. We used as many screws as we needed in order to secure the plugs. A few of these had 1, some had 2, and a lot have 3. But all in all, 1-inch sheetrock screws are cheap enough. You can do as many as you want.
It's kind of thick. They're all a little bit different due to they have different amounts of drywall mud on top of them. And then later on we'll do 2 pieces of tape or maybe 3 pieces of tape across each one. But this kind of cements it in place. So that was my idea. And then the next time we tape them, then we float it.
So my dad is a master woodworker, cabinet maker, carpenter who has specialized in historic home restoration for the last 30 years. And I tend just to go with his ideas. There might be better ways to do it, but I really like the way he came up with. And so that's what we're sticking with. So here he decided that one of the plugs was not secure enough and that the amount of screws used was not satisfactory. So just think a few more in. I mean, we bought these screws from the Habitat for Humanity resale store for something like $1 a pound. They're stupid cheap.
Okay. So that's my idea. You could save one step by just going ahead and mudding across them with tape right now. We don't have very much drywall mud though. That's a little thing.
So in conclusion, I really do believe this is the job that anyone should take on. And there's just a couple of exceptions. If you absolutely shouldn't be breathing fiberglass dust, don't do it. Or if you make more than $500 in half a day, hire it to be done. We didn't really know what they were going to charge till it was done. We just took them a referral from a good friend that said they did great work and they were reasonable, and doubling the price of insulation or tripling the price. That's what we were thinking. But quadrupling was a little bit more, but not so much that we really feel bad about it. So I hope this video was helpful to somebody, and please insulate, save, recycle, whatever. And as far as materials go, the newspaper, which they don't use, was their complaint was that it didn't hold its shape very well, that it would collapse under its own weight and compress in the walls, and the fiberglass really proved to hold itself. Because there's the one scene in this video where my father plugged a little bit extra into the wall, and it really did seem to just stick and hold its shape. But also, if you notice that the white insulation wasn't going in very well, it was causing the guys some trouble. So the white insulation should be reserved for the roof. The paper insulation should be reserved for a budget job. And the pink fiberglass spray in or blow in, I think is the better material. They claim that it has a much higher
performance rate than the other. So anyways, thank you for watching. I hope this will be useful to somebody. And if you have any comments, let me know. Thank you. Bye.